Front entrance. Rosemary was a security guard here at the Cincinnati Art Museum for many years. One day she called in sick, which was unusual, but a fellow security guard, Kim, saw her bright and early the next morning in the front lobby of the museum, walking briskly back to the stairs down to her post. He was a little insulted that she ignored him when he said a cheerful "good morning" to her. When he went to the lounge for break and complained about Rosemary's rudeness, the other guards looked at him silently. "What is it?" he demanded, and the other guards slowly told him that Rosemary had died in her sleep the day before. Gallery 110, bronze effigy of Elizabeth Boot Duveneck, parted too soon. Elizabeth Boot married artist Frank Duveneck in 1886 after a 6-year engagement. Their love was a meeting of the minds, their marriage a joining of vastly different worlds. Elizabeth Boot came from a wealthy Boston family, while Duveneck was Kentucky-born of German immigrants who ran a beer garden. They met at one of his exhibitions in Boston, and later she tracked him down in Europe while he was teaching in Munich, Germany. Their extended courtship was a result of her own artistic ambitions, as well as barriers of class difference. They finally married just before her 40th birthday. She had a child, and the couple moved to Paris, where she and Frank were taking part in an art show. But Lizzie, as Frank called her playfully, caught a chill on the way home. In 4 days, just 2 years after their marriage, Lizzie died of pneumonia. He created this, his only attempt at sculpture, in her honor, her body graced by palm leaves suggesting triumph over death. In this gallery, a member of the front desk staff walked by on a slow Wednesday evening and, hearing a cough, turned around expecting to see a security guard, only to face a deserted gallery. The only sound was a small voice whispering, "Frank." Gallery 111, Soldier's Joy Ballroom. It has been said that a man dressed as a Civil War soldier has been seen by security guards strolling through these galleries, or languidly leaning on an invisible wall. This gallery used to be home to a ballroom built in 1806. The ballroom belonged in a manor house from Nelson County, Virginia, the home of a Revolutionary War veteran, Jordan Cable. The Federal-style ballroom remained intact up to and through the American Civil War. The house's name was Soldier's Joy, and it was a popular place for parties and dances at the beginning of the conflict. Perhaps this spirit has returned to the spot he remembered best at a time of his death on the battlefield, still watching couples waltzing, ever vigilant for a chance to cut in. Gallery 114, Louis XVI French Salon. Before these galleries held Rookwood pottery, they housed a salon from an 18th century French building on the Rue de Brac in Paris. When a collector purchased the paneling from the room in 1931, the room was part of the Hotel Montmorency. Although the salon had seen many visitors, one refused to leave. After this room was deinstalled, this part of the building held offices for the secretarial pool. One evening, as some of the staff were working late, they heard one woman moving her furniture around in the adjoining office. Although this was a strange thing to do, they all simply laughed and went home. The next morning, when they questioned their fellow office mate about working late, she replied that she had gone home at 5. Then she asked why they had moved her desk to the other side of the room. Perhaps the hotel's original owner was still arranging her sitting room to her liking. Gallery 209. The spirits dwelling in the portrait gallery are protective rather than mischievous. Ray, a member of our facilities support team, was dusting in this gallery when suddenly the gallery lights and, strangely, the emergency lights flipped off. Ray was expecting to hear a voice from the intercom system from the security office tell him what happened, but it was just silence and darkness. He stood still for a while, but got frightened and began to move, when a voice said, "Stay still, 'twill be all right." He turned to the voice, but stayed in one place until the lights came on shortly afterwards. He was facing Mr. Sedgwick, who smiled back at him in the dim light. Mr. Sedgwick is currently off view, perhaps haunting other parts of the museum. Gallery 203. As you step into the 12th century chapel of San Baudilio, you can almost feel the cold whispers of generations of the faithful within its walls. Once located in northern Spain, these frescoes were created on the edge of Christian Spain, as the southern castles and regions were ruled by Muslim military leaders. Even this room's style is stamped with rich Islamic architecture that has influenced Spanish culture. This room, however, has also been stamped with a spirit from far away. A black hooded figure, which overnight guards have briefly glimpsed facing the chapel and then floating upwards. A Spanish monk, perhaps, still finding solitary peace gazing at his medieval master's paintings. Reminded of Jesus' celebrated walk into Jerusalem on the back of a donkey, perhaps this lost soul believes himself in heaven, surrounded by the grace of these scenes. Gallery 108, the Samuel Best tall case clock, calling out for company. It seems that certain objects come to life when the visitors and staff are not looking. Perhaps they have brought with them the essence of the previous owner, or creators. The tall case clock was built by Samuel Best, who lived and worked in Cincinnati around 1815 as a silversmith, creating anything from engraving plates for banks, silverware, locks, and timepieces. When this section of the gallery was being installed, a curator and an art handler were both working in the adjoining gallery when they heard a bong, bong, coming from around the corner where the Samuel Best clock was positioned. The curator and the art handler looked at each other, both realizing that the clock weights had been removed prior to installation. According to the curator, the art handler walked slowly around the corner, and in a moment he quickly emerged, walking back to the gallery 121. He simply said, "It's time to go home now," and never spoke of the incident again.